Aespa's Armageddon album has just released, and is it good? Let's find out. This time we're going to do things a little bit differently because instead of reviewing the album myself, I thought it would be a good idea to look at what the community has to say about this release. And to do so, we're going to go onto a website called Album of the Year. This website functions a lot like Letterboxd or Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic, but of course this one is specifically for music. And it pretty much just takes a bunch of reviews that people can leave, anyone can make a review, and based on the score that they give, it gets averaged out, and that's the score that the album is going to receive. So let's look at these reviews and see what they have to say, starting with the most popular, which is a 53 rating, and it says, "It's just another Aespa album with great pre-release single, a decent title track, and painfully mediocre B-sides. Same formula since Girls, check the single and title track and forget about the rest." I have to agree because I think Supernova is fantastic. I think it's probably the best title track that they've ever released. It has the weirdness, experimental vibe that you would find in something like Savage, but now it's brought to its maximum potential. And it works. But let's move on to another review. This time it's a 75 rated review, and it says, "The eternal conflict between Aespa's innovative production and their tendency to fall into generic music. There's this joke that Aespa's comeback pattern goes like, good, bad, repeat." I feel like this is a problem because it shows that this group is consistently inconsistent, right? And as a result, the fans are going to become complacent to the idea that, oh, it's okay if the project is bad because the next one is going to be good. That's not a really good cycle to be in, because what ends up happening is that SM as a company is not going to put any effort. They're not going to care because they know you're going to buy it anyway. They're going to be like, well, we could put in the effort, but they're going to expect a bad album this time anyway, so why should we? Let's just make a good title track and let's forget about the B-sides. And that's exactly what's happening with the Armageddon album. At the end of this review, the person says, "To sum up, Armageddon is the release pattern combined in one project," which makes sense when you think about it. The first half is amazing, it's grand Aespa with your 80% aggressive futuristic and your 20% dreamy magical production. Just thinking about the run, Supernova Armageddon set the tone, makes me love this project. Mine has nothing to be shy about either, the three before are just that excellent. And Licorice has something unique when compared to the other rock-leaning songs. But from Bahama to Melody, we get basic K-pop, and their vocals are the only thing remaining to save them. Trust me, Aespa knows how to make superb contemporary R&B tunes, and they know how to handle ballads, but what they have going on in that second half, so many groups could pull off just as well. Anyways, that was a positive review. Let's look at another negative one. This time a 61 rating, and they say, "Aside from a few interesting tracks here and there, Aespa's Armageddon settles for very basic K-pop tunes. The latter half of the album drops a newly found identity instantly and comprises a few highlights as well as a bunch of mediocre K-pop tracks. The album's title promised a big wave, perhaps a career-altering release, but neglects the principle completely in its execution. The inconsistencies in its track list run deep. The inclusion of Supernova shows that the label still has an understanding of how to progress Aespa's well-established sound, and yet they chose to switch things up for the 3 songs and then forget all about it. I have said it a million times and I will say it again, there is no shame in consistency. The group's debut EP Savage was extremely eclectic, but had the consistent production style that makes listening to the EP as a whole incredibly satisfying. This album throws all of that out of the window and the results are mediocre because of it. All in all, I am quite disappointed by the direction that this project went in, especially considering it has promising moments. If there's anything that Armageddon has proven, it is that the only thing holding Aespa back from becoming a phenomenal act is their music's inconsistency." One of the lowest rated songs in the album across all reviewers is Bahama. And I think the reason for that is because it just doesn't make sense to include a song like that on this type of album. If it was a single release, I don't think anyone would have a problem with it, but it's the fact that it's included on this album that creates a bad listening experience because it's so out of place. Let's go back to a positive review. This time it's a 70 rated review, And they start off by saying, I don't like Aespa with the melodies. I like Aespa when they act tough. They go on to say, overall, I want more illusions and savages and less long chats and hot air balloons, if you get what I mean. And I have to agree 100%. There is no reason why this group should ever be releasing songs like hot air balloons. That was a tragedy on the last album, and long chat and licorice are pretty much the hot air balloon of this album. And they end off by saying, my goats are washed, but they still smoke on your top 5. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what top 5 they're smoking on, because my top 5 is twice. But not all the reviews are bad. In fact, someone gave it a 100 rating. They said that Aespa detached their... Well, I don't know if I can say that, but they melted it down to titanium and steel, then turned it into a hard drive, and when Ning Ning plugged it into the SM laptop, this is what they heard. Honestly, I agree 100% with this review. I don't agree with the rating, but they're onto something here. They're definitely onto something here. So what's the biggest takeaway from all of this? I think the main thing here is that we can unanimously agree that we like the pre-release and the title track a lot. And if we were to get more stuff like that in the future, it would be fantastic, right? But I think the other thing we can agree on is that this album is very inconsistent, both in its sound, in its themes, in its ideas. Everything about this doesn't really feel like a full project. It doesn't feel like an experience. And that's what an album is supposed to do. I think this brings up a bigger problem within the industry, and that's the fact that, like, I think all companies, they're not really invested in delivering an experience with these albums. They don't really care to because they don't need to. The title track sells the album, so they put all their money and all their effort into making that as cool and as good sounding as possible. And then the B-sides get thrown to the side. I think this is a very, very bad approach, because in the long run, it ends up hurting the artistry of your groups. The fans, however, are never gonna push back against this, because if they do so, they're gonna look like they're haters, or they're gonna make the group look like they're failing or whatever, and they don't wanna do that. So they're never gonna push this to its furthest extent and actually demand the company to deliver good quality projects. So you're gonna end up buying the album anyway, and SM wins. I think a lot of people are probably going to disagree with me, and I think no matter what, there will still be some people that look at me and say like, yup, he's just hating, but that's not true. That is not true. I am not the real villain here. SM is the real villain, because the only thing that is standing in the way of Aespa becoming or reaching the potential that they deserve is SM. And that's why Armageddon was a disappointing album. Anyways, let me know what you think about the album down in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'll be replying to as much as I can. But with that being said, thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.